What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Respect and Praise Show with yours truly, the host, the creator, producer, Miguel Mike Medina, Triple M. On this episode, I met this person about a year ago or so now. We both worked in the same company, and he's one of the reasons why my my sports pieces came out great the way they did. But he's doing so much in his own way, in his own career. And it was an honor to have him in this episode to interview him and get to know a little bit more about him, as well as you guys will get to know a little bit more about him. So stay tuned. It's a good interview. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to present to you Tyson Shushkewich. Tyson, thank you for joining, my man.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So I got to start from the top. When did you discover your passion for sports, and for how long you've been a Blue Jays fan?
Yeah, so it's probably about 6 or 7, and I was playing a lot of soccer at the time, actually. And then my family moved out to Alberta, Canada, and I started playing t-ball there, and I really got into baseball. And then my dad and I actually went on a trip to the Rogers Center about when I was 12 years old. And we got to during that time, that was in the mid to late 2000s there, so I got to see Roy Halladay pitch, and they played the Yankees, and that kind of really ignited my passion on the Blue Jays, but also baseball as well, right? Like growing up, I umpired baseball. I played as much as I could. I wasn't very good. That's why I write about it now, rather than that. And then I think growing up, I was very fortunate. We lived in the small town I grew up in. We lived very close to a place called Vauxhall, and Vauxhall actually has an academy where a lot of players from across Canada come and play, because they go on tournaments and they get scouted. So, for example, Blue Jays prospects like Adam Macko and Damiano Palomajani, they actually went to that academy. They were there after I had moved away to university and everything. But getting to see talented players like that. There's also a Canadian baseball team in Lethbridge as well, which was very close to me. And so there's always baseball going on, even though half the year was hockey in winter. So I think just being in that environment, as well, just overall, just the sport itself, right? Like a lot of people, when they see when they see baseball, they might think it's boring and it's long, but I like going into the in-depth portions of it where, you're looking at the stats, you're looking at the players, you're looking, why this pitcher's coming in at this time, et cetera. And, just a little mind games. It truly is just my favorite sport.
Who's your favorite Blue Jays player of all time?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. So my first jersey I ever got was Marco Scutaro, because I thought I really liked the way he played. And then I learned very quickly never to get a player's jersey on the year that they're going to be going to free agency. That ended up happening. I think my favorite player was Roy Halladay, mostly because he was such a dominant player on the mound, and then he just had that presence on him when he was out there that he could do something special every time. And then you hear the backstory of just how hard he put into owning his craft. And he didn't come to the majors and have kind of like what Alek Manoah is going through right now. Like, he didn't come to the majors and excel right off the hop, right? Like, he had a good start, and then he hit some trouble. He really utilized like the psychological aspects of the minors, and went and kind of refocused and redid himself, and then just ended up being this absolute bulldog on the mound who could throw complete games. And then he was the guy who showed up at 7 a.m. to run the stairs at the Rogers Center, and just put in that much work. And then just unfortunately, with all that work, how much it took on his toll on his body and everything over the years. Like, he really just gave it all for the Blue Jays. And I mean, during that time, the Blue Jays had they had some good players, but the team themselves was in still in a tough division, right? And they weren't winning, winning or going to the playoffs or anything like that. And a lot of people showed up just to see him, right? And he definitely, he's up there as one of my favorite Blue Jays of all time.
Yeah, Roy Halladay was a stud during his time with the Blue Jays. It's crazy to think that he passed away at such a young age with that tragic accident that happened. But that was amazing. Before Jose Bautista, you had Roy Halladay. So Roy Halladay, he was special in his time with Toronto. So let's talk about fan-sided because that's where we met. That's where we met. I believe you were there for 6 years, right?
No, I was so Chris was there for about 7 years. I joined Fansided in 2019, so I was there for like 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years. Okay. So Fansided, how did Fansided impact your career, and what are you most proud of during your time when you were at Fansided?
Yeah, for sure. So I started at Fansided on 2 sites. I started at Jay's Journal first, just as contributing there, and then I also joined their other site called To the Pen, and I was writing between the both of them. And essentially, I didn't have any background experience in journalism of the sort, sorry. And I actually got in with a company called NSR Media, one of the old Blue Jays Sportsnet sideline reporters, Barry Davis. When he left the Blue Jays, he was at NSR Media doing a podcast, and that group was looking for article submissions. And so I, threw a few ideas in there, and they ended up running with them. And then I took those examples that I had and I threw them to Fansided, and Fansided took me on. And then over the next couple of years, at the time, the editors were Chris Henderson and Clayton Richer, and it was on March, April of 2021 where Clayton essentially left. He resigned for whatever reason, and I applied for the co-editor job, and I got it. And so Chris and I worked together over the next year and a bit there until the end of December, until I departed as well. And I think just with Fansided, it's a lot of grassroots when you think about it, right? Like a lot of people on the Jays Journal staff, for example, we're not writers by day. We're not, we have a lot of younger contributors who are in university, for example, who are in journalism, and this is something that gets their feet wet at that level where they're starting to contribute. You're dealing with the real world of people interacting and reading your opinions and suggestions and ideas and everything like that. And I think it was just one thing with working under Fansided in Jay's Journal was the good thing was that we were representing Canada's only MLB team, and so just being able to put out the content that we wanted, and then just looking at the analytics and playing those to our advantage to boost site and get more eyes on our contributors and ourselves. And a lot of things, it was a lot of work, right? Like there are days, or because I still work full time at a non-journalism job, where I would come home from work, I would have to write 2 or 3 hours, and then you would submit something and I got to edit that for the morning, and other contributors would put stuff in, and Chris and I would have to work on balance of social media stuff. And then in the morning I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and I have to edit someone who was on the West Coast who submitted something when I was asleep, and throw that up there. Like it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of pride in knowing that the site itself was doing well. We were getting a lot of interactions with fans, with players, right? Reaching out to players and getting to interview them and just getting their interactions as well. So just overall, it was just a really good experience. And, just at the time it was, time to move on to other things. But at the same time, there was some good things that came out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And since I'm a contributing writer for Jay's Journal, Fansided, Fanside has been a blessing because for many years, when I went to school for creative writing and journalism, but I've always wanted to write mostly about sports. So for many years, for so many years, I struggled in terms of getting that experience somewhere where I could get my feet wet and things like that. So after I got my certificate for sports broadcasting, I applied to Fansided and bam, I started working for Fansided. It's crazy that it's been over a year now since I joined Fansided, and I give
I
a lot of
remember when your application came through.
yeah, yeah. I give a lot of credit to guys like you and Chris because you guys had to deal with so many people, so many um pieces and articles you guys had to edit. So, and I don't know how you guys did it, but you guys did it because there was so many
A
of
lot of
us,
late nights.
a lot of late
A
nights.
lot of late nights.
Yeah, most definitely. But I give you guys so much credit for that. And so when you guys announced that you guys were leaving, it's like, damn, like, I just basically got here yesterday. I was getting accustomed to you guys. But there's always two things that I always go for when I'm working somewhere. Number one, experience, and number two, networking. I'm always like, even though this person might be gone, but I want to keep in contact with this person. So therefore, I thought about you, and I'm gonna get Chris in the future for this show as well to interview. But I'm glad that you guys are moving on to bigger and better things. Favorite foods,
Pizza.
favorite breakfast meal.
Leftover pizza.
Travel destination that you would like to go to, but you haven't been there yet.
Um, the Matterhorn in Switzerland.
Which Blue Jays team do you enjoy watching the most? 2015 Blue Jays or 2022 Blue Jays? 2015 or 2022?
2022, but I'm biased because I was able to go to the game 2 of the playoffs there. Even though they lost, it was a good time. And I think in 2015, I wasn't able to see any games live except for a road trip we did down to, I believe, Kansas City. I can't recall. But anyways, regardless, but being able to see them live, so it's a little skewed bias there.
And they had a little rivalry going on, Kansas City and Toronto, especially that year in 2015. Remember,
Yeah, because
remember the regular season?
yeah, that was yeah. I was gonna say it was Volquez, right? And then isn't that the game Aaron Sanchez got booted? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
or
was a
they
bad
yeah, something like
ejection.
that. Yeah,
That was a bad
and
ejection.
then
I was so pissed when I saw that. That was a bad ejection.
I don't disagree.
Oh my God. Um, hmm. Loyalty or respect?
Both.
Both. Huh? Flee the fifth, huh? Hmm. Let's see. I got one more. One more. Jose Bautista or Joe Carter?
In regards to just favorite or
It could be favorite, it could be better hitter, whichever one you want to wrap into.
Joe Carter gets the nod in terms of moment because obviously World Series home run. Favorite player out of the two would be Bautista, but again, only because I got to see him live. I wasn't born when the Blue Jays won the World Series yet. So, being able to see Bautista, I think one of the big things was Bautista's. I was at Bautista's last home game, and we got taken out, and just the absolute reaction from the crowd was probably one of the top 5 noisiest experiences I've ever seen and heard and been a part of. So yeah, just his story's so good too, right? Like where he came from the Pirates. He wasn't, a flashy player by any means, and he just, figured it out pretty much, like that spark, and just turned it around. Like, I can't even tell you who he got traded for, right? Because it was just such a nothing, like not a nothing trade, but such almost like a minor league trade, right? And then he just turned his career around to become this right fielder who could, wasn't the biggest guy, but swung the bat so well that the bat speed hit home runs, and just provided that spark that was that period of time for the Blue Jays, right?
So you study environmental science and biology. What were your post-college plans?
Yeah, so I went to Dalhousie University. I got a degree, a major in environmental science, and a minor in biology. I got a couple of certificates as well. Overall, I haven't really been a big career aspect kind of person. Like, I haven't been like, I want to work in this type of field, I want to do this, etc. My wife is from Central Ontario, and she wanted to come back here, so we moved out here. And then I started working in the cannabis industry in pest management technician. I was working, keeping plants alive essentially. And then I started to move into quality control for documentation purposes, as well as raw goods and materials. And that's currently what I do now, as well as the journalism.
So aside from writing, you also love to go hiking in the forest. How often how often do you go hiking?
A lot more, because a couple of years ago I got my wife and I adopted a beagle mix named Archie, and he's very high maintenance and has lots of energy. So I take him out to the forests around our area in Central Ontario here. So we got a little couple trails and stuff. So I get to take him out and go around. Probably not as much as I wanted to, but I try every now and then. Not now though. It's like minus 15 degrees Celsius outside and snowing. So.
Okay, last but not least, where can the listeners that'll be watching this, where can they follow you and your work?
Yeah, for sure. So right now I contribute to 2 different sites. One of them justbaseball.com, as well as at Blue Jays Nation. I contribute over there as well. Right now I've been working with a lot of prospects. I've been interviewing quite a few prospects, Ian Churchill, Ryan Chasse. I have another one coming out this week, actually, with Jimmy Robbins. And then I got some other prospect content lined up. Personally, I have a Twitter at Tyson_MLB. And then if you just, my last name's pretty brutal, so usually it's best to find me there, where I like putting out ideas and things, and just I always like interacting with fans, whether it be Blue Jays or baseball in general, right? So just see, my work's out there. It is is what it is.
Well, for the viewers and listeners, I'll be put the information down there, of Tyson's Twitter handle and all the other things that he's working on. Tyson, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. Much respect and praise on everything that you're doing, and keep going forward, brother. Keep going.
You as well.
Well, that does it for this episode of the Respect and Praise Show. I hope you enjoy it. Hit that thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You guys know my motto: have mutual respect, mutual love, and mutual admiration. So stay tuned for the next episode.